This is the Cannabis Update Podcast Video Edition, where we give leaders and organizations an opportunity to tell their stories and share information. Welcome back to the podcast, Jorge.
Thank you very much for the invitation. Thank you very much.
No problem, brother. What have you been doing lately? What's new in your world?
Well, during the last months, I am working as a bartender in a busy company. Mm-hmm. I'm very happy to do that. And I am also working with several aspects of the Mexican legislation during the first months before this mess of the world. I was working on that. And I am working with some Mexican companies interested in the business, and also with some Canadian and US companies interested to do things in Mexico. So I am working on that project. I am working in an educational platform in Spanish for the cannabis industry in Mexico also. Mm-hmm. We are doing some courses and activities information. That's what I'm doing.
Tell me then, Mexico was moving towards some form of legalization on certain levels. I think you had an end date of April 30th, maybe, and now things are getting pushed back due to COVID. Can you give us an update on what the legalization situation looks like in Mexico right now?
The deadline was at the end of April. So for this situation, I read that the Senate will ask the Supreme Court again for a more period, for one more month or 2 or 3 months to delay the conversation, because, well, as you know and everybody knows, nothing is doing now in Mexico for the situation. So they will ask for 1 or 2 months permission and a delay of the discussions. And in my point of view, they will start the discussions in a formal way in what we call the extraordinary period. This period will be in summertime. So when things change, the Senate will work again in several issues. One of these is the cannabis regulation. So I see by June, July, they will start the conversation again.
Okay, and this bill that they're looking to pass, would that formalize the legalization of recreational cannabis, medicinal cannabis, and hemp? What exactly does it entail?
They call it regulation more than legalization because there are some penalties including in the bill. So they are looking for open the markets for recreational, medicinal, and industrial. I have, if you like, I can share with you some of the main purposes of the bill. First is the allowance of, now is there is a permission now of 5 cannabis grams. They like to go into 28 grams. But if you have more than 28 grams, you have a penalty. Between 28 and 200 grams, you have a fine. But if you have more than 20 grams in your own possession,
more than 200 grams, you mean?
More than 200 grams, you go to jail for 3 or 6 years. Yes. So it is not a kind of legalization. It's more like regulation in some aspects.
Just like in Canada, I guess, just your own version of it, really.
Yeah. So this is important. They have the purpose of develop 5 kind of license. The first one is growing, transformation, commercialization, that is retail, export and import, and research. So these will be the main license for the Mexican market.
Okay, so you have a Senate that already approved the bill in March. And what are the steps that you guys have legally before it becomes law?
Okay. First thing is that Senate approved only in commissions. So these commissions include Justice, Health, and Legislative Procedures Commissions, and they approve in general terms. Which means that it is only in general terms. So the next step is that they approve in what we call particular issues. So the example of this is like the allowance of 28 grams of cannabis for personal use. And then each part of the law will be discussed in particular aspects and voted in commissions this specific aspect. So the example is the possibility to have 28 grams of cannabis. And the members of this commission vote if they agree with this specific proposal or not. And they go into all the specific aspects of the law and to vote them in commissions. When they have a particular discussion and a general discussion of the law, they pass the bill to the voting of the full House of Senate. That includes the voting of 122 senators.
Okay.
If the bill passed the Senate, they send it to the low chamber, the Chamber of Deputies, for the same purposes. Analysis in these commissions, in the same commissions, the Senate are the same commissions if in Deputies Chamber. So they have the same, and they vote again in particular and in general terms. And if they approve in these commissions, the bill goes into the full Chamber of Deputies that have 500 members.
And then finally signed off. Oh, go ahead.
Yes. And when the Chamber of Deputies approve, they send it again to the Senate Chamber, and the Senate Chamber, that is the chamber of origin of the law, they send it to the president signing.
Yeah,
yes,
that's the final stage.
That's the final stage.
One of the I guess conditions that I read in this bill is that, and I'm going to read it to make sure I get it correct here. First 5 years of legalization, 40% of cultivation licenses may go to people who can show they were somehow harmed by the prohibition of cannabis. Can you explain that?
Yes, it means that during the drugs war, several, I think, 200, 250 municipalities across the country suffer different aspects of this war. I mean, people go to jail. You know, these poor farmers that go into illegal camps go to jail. They have a lack of social development programs. They need a way to grow legally and to have their own income about it. So the policy will focus to attend these specific municipalities across several states in the country. So what they like is a kind of agreement with them, a moral agreement with them, to say them, okay, a percentage of the license will be for you because we like that you will be legal, you are non-violent, you are in the middle of the war and with the cartels and with the army and whatever. Mm-hmm. So this is a kind of social purpose for them.
Social justice initiative or something.
Social justice initiative, yeah.
What about, there's another stipulation that says no foreign ownership of cannabis-related companies over 49%. Is that correct?
Yes, the investment, the law of foreign investment in Mexico is very clear in that, and they allow 49% of international investment in all the industries. So it's a general law.
Okay.
So the Senate moved, and they still remain with this law that allows an international investment of 49% mm-hmm. with a Mexican partner.
And this bill would include both cannabis and hemp. Unlike the U.S., they're not separating the two.
This is an important question. It is important to say that this is a general law. A general law in Mexico means that when the law passes, the second part is the creation of the secondary laws. These secondary laws is the implementation of the general law. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. In these aspects of the law, the particular aspects of the law, it will include a specific, what I see is that hemp will be a specific agricultural policy for hemp.
Okay.
The Ministry of Agriculture will start with a specific agricultural policy of that.
And you would anticipate, although no one can really know with COVID, but they're now looking at somewhere in the summertime, perhaps, to have all of this passed, all the way up to the president should COVID begin to sort of dial down and people go back to work.
Yes.
Okay, what about CBD in Mexico right now? I've been reading that although there are no real laws about CBD, that it is becoming available at the retail level. Can you speak to that at all?
Technically, CBD are totally 100% illegal in Mexico. That's why 1 year ago, the new government revoked the guidelines of import CBD to Mexico. And the Ministry of Economy sent a letter to the regulatory agency. So at the end of November of 2019, the last government present a guidelines for CBD imports and exports. So when the new government arrived, the regulatory agency that called COFEPRIS, they don't comply with the Ministry of Economy policy to do that. So the government said, we need to revoke these guidelines because they see that it's cannabis sativa compounds are prohibited. So that's why the new government revoked the guidelines and technically is not allowed to sell and to import CBD to Mexico.
CBD regulation would be independent of this bill we're talking about.
Yeah, so what I see when I was there a few months ago, you see several WhatsApp and Facebook groups selling CBD and selling things and whatever, and on several marketplaces, but it's not allowed because they don't have a sanitary registration. Any product for consumption in Mexico, and I mean food, medicine, whatever, need a sanitary registration. And all the products selling CBD in Mexico now, they don't have a sanitary registration, so technically are illegal.
So regardless of where you buy it, it's still considered, it is gray market products at this point,
Yeah,
but
it is.
arguably if you look for it, you can find it, I suppose.
Sure, yeah.
All right.
But some retailers with prestige, I have conversation with them during the last months. They are a little aware because they don't like to show the products in the stores because they don't even have a license. Mm-hmm. So they are afraid of fines or closures of the stores because they don't have license to sell any cannabis compound. So if you go to several little these stores, you can find some things, but technically it's not legal.
All right. Well, with all of this said, it looks like we're going to have another talk in summer so you can catch us up on what's happening. Hopefully by then you'll have some good news for us. Any final thoughts we've missed?
Just to be prepared, to be ready to understand more the Mexican cannabis market. I see a huge opportunities there, not only for huge companies. I see an opportunities for technology, software, education. It will be an interesting business, and transfer of technology, extraction technology, growing in indoor and outdoor. So it's what I see in the coming months when this COVID finished.
When it dials down. Well, in the meantime, stay safe, brother. Enjoy your warm BC weather. Here in Alberta, it's not very nice. And
yes.
We'll talk to you soon. Perhaps we'll see you on Twitter.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Cannabis Update podcast. We do our very best to be as accurate as possible, but take no responsibility for inaccurate details or facts. If something interests you, we're glad to have brought it to your attention, but please take the time to research the details for yourself.